Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Good morning.
I'm glad to see that you're still smiling. I apologize for the extreme delays. We have not been sitting around talking about West Virginia basketball or Marshall football or even politics. The attorneys and I have been working diligently since 8:30 this morning to try to streamline this trial and get it in a posture for your consideration. I appreciate your patience so much. We are now in a position to go forward. If you will recall, we are still on the defense case in chief, so I will ask Mr. Selden to please call the defendant's next witness.
Your Honor, we have no other witnesses. We are resting the defense case.
All right, thank you. Let me inquire of the state if there will be a case in rebuttal.
Your Honor, the state does have one witness to call in rebuttal.
All right, please call your witness.
State recalls Robert Hinman.
Mr. Hinman, I remind you, you are still under oath. You may have a seat. You may proceed, Mr. Truman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hinman, handy what's been, at this point, it's part of State's Exhibit 3. Ask you to review that as well as the second page, which is also an abstract from...
You might request that we get copies so we can look at them while they're being testified to. If we could simply copy them very quickly.
Does the state have copies available?
We do not. I mean, we can make them, but...
Okay. I'll ask Ms. Brown-Bailey or the deputy to make the copies real quick. How many do we need?
He's the only one that wants one, I guess.
One.
Yes, Your Honor, one copy.
Okay.
Your Honor, and for the court's information, Mr. Victor will be cross-examining this witness.
Oh, all right. With our luck, the copier may have run out of paper. That's right.
Go ahead and ask some preliminary questions.
Okay, go ahead.
You previously testified that you and Tim Bledsoe, both retired troopers, were the lead investigators in the two cases, correct?
That's correct.
As part of your investigation, did you interview the defendant's children?
No, we did not.
Why not?
At the time of the investigation, and more specifically between March and June, March is when we began the investigation. June is when we executed a search warrant on the defendant's residence. During that period, we were collecting information from third-party records. We were collecting information from witnesses, from financial institutions. And there was nothing in that 3-month period to indicate that there would be a need to speak to the children. The second and most important thing was their age. They were very young at the time. One was 10 or 11 and one was 13. And we were looking at the business of the Cochrans. We were looking at the Cochrans individually. So there was no indication or any reason to speak to the children. And then the final reason we wouldn't speak to the children is we've been long taught in law enforcement and investigations that you don't speak to children under the age of 18. And there's some tolerance there with 16, 17, 18-year-olds, but you don't speak to anyone that young without a parent's permission or without an attorney present. So we would not, by normal operating procedures, have spoken to the children.
You were in the courtroom when the two children testified on behalf of the defendant, correct?
I was.
And in their testimony, they indicated to you who actually ran the company businesses.
I did hear that testimony, yes.
And what essentially what were the children saying as to who was controlling the Cochran's businesses?
The children put a lot of responsibility or
I'm going to object to this. The jury heard the evidence. The jury can draw whatever conclusions from the children's testimony. This witness does not need to editorialize on that.
Sustained.
You're being recalled as a witness for the purpose of rebutting the testimony provided by the children. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Thank you. Hand you an abstract from what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 3. Ask you to look at that as well as the second page, also an abstract of what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 3. Recognize those documents?
I do.
What are they?
These are text message communications between the defendant, Ms. Cochran, and Stephanie Hamilton.
May I have those back, please? At 10:15, the defendant sends a text to Stephanie Hamilton. Can you put that in some kind of context as what's going on there?
Natalie Cochran is offering Stephanie Hamilton an opportunity to invest in a government contract dealing with medical
The
equipment.
document speaks for itself. Again, we don't need any editorialization as to what these documents are, and what they speak of.
Could the state respond to that?
Sure.
That's not accurate. Those are statements taken, and they don't say anything about a contract. It says there are two today. Two what? I think it's fair to put that in context with the witness's investigation and what he found that meant.
And for that matter, these documents do not indicate any interlocutor of Natalie Cochran. We have no idea who this is.
Well, I think we do need some explanation from the witness, and so I'll allow it. I'll overrule the objection. You may proceed, Mr. Truman.
Thank you.
Ms. Cochran is offering an opportunity to invest in two contracts or to consult on these contracts. They deal with surgical masks and betadine swabs, medical equipment. Ms. Hamilton was in the medical field.
Okay. Here's another text, and this is also a download from the defendant's phone, correct?
Yes,
And
from Ms. Hamilton's phone.
correct. And this is April 26th of 2019.
Yes.
And the defendant responds, that means next Friday is payday.
I'm going to object to this, Your Honor. This is way past Michael Cochran's death. This document is irrelevant.
What is the date on this?
The date,
Yes.
April 26th. And the purpose of this testimony is to show that the defendant continued to run the business as she had before.
I'll allow it. Overrule.
Thank you. Trying to next hand you an abstract from State's Exhibit 2. Could identify that?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a text message between Natalie Cochran and Chris Davis on February the 6th, 2019.
Judge, I think we really need to approach the bench at this point.
All right. Continue, Mr. Truman.
Thank you, Your Honor. February 6, 2019, at 9:27. That's a text from the defendant to whom?
Chris Davis.
We'll have these marked collectively, but if you could take a review of those documents. And if I could have this marked as States 34, please.
All right.
No, this will be State's
Well, we
Exhibit
didn't-
number 37.
We're not going to, those weren't allowed.
These aren't allowed?
No,
These right here,
right.
number 35.
What's the number?
34 and 35, I think. Or 35 and 30, 35 and 36.
So those are not going to be admitted?
These, well, the ones that you marked previously are not. It's this one in its stead.
Okay, well, it's going to be 37, because I can't.
That's fine, sure.
Okay. This is Defendant's Exhibit number 37, Your Honor.
States.
Thank
I
you.
mean, States, I'm sorry.
States 37.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. States 37, marked for identification. Can you tell us what that is?
These are text messages between Natalie Cochran and Wendy Poteet.
Who's Wendy Poteet?
Wendy Poteet would be the sister of Natalie Cochran.
And how did you acquire those documents?
These documents, they're cell phone text message documents. These were recovered from Natalie Cochran's cell phone subsequent to the search warrant executed at her residence. The cell phone is given to a forensic examiner, and they do an electronic download of all the data on the cell phone. And these are pages from that extract.
And that was from a search warrant?
Yes, sir.
Now, we don't necessarily have to go through all of these. Let's just put a few up here to show where this is going.
I'm sorry, which one is this?
4.
4.
Oops, can't get anything out of that. Once again, these are text messages between the defendant and her sister,
Yes.
and she's offering a contract?
Wendy Poteet was already a investor victim of the contracts, and she is,
We object to the characterization investment victim. We don't know anything about Ms. Poteet.
All right, that's a fair objection if you'll refrain from speaking of her as a victim,
Yes,
please.
Your Honor.
Continue.
Wendy Poteet was an investor, and this is reference to a contract that she is owed money on. And Ms. Cochran is advising her that she's going to be paid by certified check.
Once again,
This is a text message.
Your Honor, can we please have this identified? Which document?
number 5.
Text message, again, between Natalie Cochran and Wendy Poteet, where Natalie is offering additional contracts for Wendy to invest in on February 18th of 2019.
Now, collectively, is there a pattern emerging here in terms of the defendant's conduct of the business?
I'm going to object to this question. That's argumentative.
Or we could just go through slide by slide.
Overruled. Continue.
Is there?
These contracts were dated after the date that Michael Cochran collapsed on February 6th. So this is a continuation of these illegal business operations, the investment, the Ponzi scheme we'd spoken about. This is a continuation of those after Michael's not available.
This time for sure. Please.
This will be State's Exhibit number 38, Your Honor.
Very well.
Before I go south with these. This is the one. Let me give that back. Take this. Hand you what's been marked for identification as States 38, please. You recognize that?
I do. I do.
What is it?
Which number is it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the
Yes. Yeah. 22, 23, 10,
10. Okay.
13, 14,
Okay.
16, 19, 20, 21,
Okay.
22,
So now we're looking at 10.
collectively at the moment. But
Okay. All right.
they're not all available, but exhibits 10 through 23, or tabs 10 through 23. What is that?
These are all text messages specifically between Natalie Cochran and Michael Cochran, ranging from August of 2018 to February 5th of 2019.
5th or 6th?
These end on the 5th, February 5th of 2019.
This is page 2 of number 11. Who's that to and from?
This text message block is Natalie Cochran's text message that she has sent to Michael Cochran.
Do those numbers mean anything to you?
These are dollar amounts that she has told Michael are owed to them and their business for contract, government contracts that they have sold or obtained, have been awarded, would be the correct term. She's,
I'm sorry. Are you done with that one?
you want me to finish, Mr. Truman?
Please, yes.
The date of this text was on August 27th, and with these dollar amounts, she's provided other dates in which these dollar amounts will be posting. The very first entry, 3.45 million, should post tonight at midnight. That would be on August 27th. And then there's timestamps applied to the other amounts in those texts.
13. And this one from October 25th of 18.
This is a text from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran where she's talking about getting off the phone with government entities, and that the audit, which was presented as a reason why none of the contracts could be paid out, she is telling him at this time that the audit is complete. There's some additional administrative stuff that needs to take place, and that all monies from all those contracts that he believed were being awarded and due will be available by Monday, October 29th.
You heard young Mr. Cochran testify about a .50 caliber contract, did you not?
I did.
This is number 14. And this is, again, a text. You recognize the phone number as to where that text is coming from?
Yes, that's Natalie Cochran's phone number.
And is that the only .50 caliber order in your investigation that you saw, or were there others?
That is the only one. This is a reference to a text again to Michael about that .50 caliber government contract order, where she is telling Michael that they, being whatever entity the contract was fulfilled with, want to double that .50 caliber order, and it would cost them $244 million and yield a return of $378 million.
This one from January 30th, 2019. Who is that one from at 334?
Again, this text is from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran. In this text, this is following the government shutdown, to put it in context. And she is telling Michael that they have all the money being resent tomorrow, and they should be available to them by Monday at the latest. And then the feds will begin sending money on Monday. This was dated January 30th of 2019. February 1st was the date that the investors had been told that the monies would be released post-government shutdown.
There's one from the 31st.
This is, again, a text from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran, where she is telling him that she is on the phone with Bank of America, and this is in reference to the monies that were supposedly inbound, and that's why she's talking with Bank of America.
I'm going to object on lack of personal knowledge.
All right, that's fair. Sustained.
As part of your investigation, did you download records indicating when the defendant was using her cell phone to make phone calls?
Yes.
Did you compare the text messagings with the downloads to see if, in fact, she was on the bank phone with the bank?
There were instances where she claimed to be on the phone and she wasn't, and there were instances where
Judge, I'm going to object. This is a broad.
I'll withdraw that.
Okay.
Thank you.
defendant lied.
21. What's DFAS?
DFAS is the Defense Finance Accounting Service. It's a federal government entity that deals with defense finance.
And 2 days before Michael collapsed, there's a reference to the organization you just mentioned. Who's Betsy?
Betsy was earlier referenced in testimony to Betsy Britland. Betsy was a character created by Natalie Cochran to be a government employee that she communicated with regarding government contracts on the regular. She would ask, or when asked about contracts, she had told Michael that her point of contact was Betsy Britland with DFAS or the U.S. Treasury.
That's not in the exhibit. The witness is testifying from some other unidentified documents. I object to it.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
So Betsy Britland, who did not exist, this is a reference to Natalie claiming to have spoken with Betsy regarding the contracts and the whereabouts of the award money that should be coming to the contracts. And this text is, again, to Michael Cochran.
22. And on 2-4 at 3:01. 2-4-19 at 3:01.
Again, this again is a text message from Natalie Cochran to Michael Cochran, assuring him that all 4 wire transfers and money deposits were en route and that they potentially could show up that day on February the 4th. And she references 4.8 regarding millions of dollars that should arrive in the morning and 23.8 million tomorrow, the next day at some time.
From your review of the text messages between the defendant and Michael Cochran, the defendant and Wendy Poteet, the defendant and the Davises, the defendant and Stephanie Hamilton, was there a pattern emerging there?
Yes, there was.
And was always deception to all of those parties, was it not?
Judge, now the prosecutor is testifying. I object.
Fair point.
Sustained.
The text messages that we've reviewed in summary fashion, did they indicate a pattern to you?
They did.
What is that pattern?
That Michael Cochran was being told the exact same information that the investors were being told. Those who were relying on money to be paid back to them, the information that was given to them is the exact information that was being given to Michael Cochran.
And that all derived from the defendant, correct?
Yes.
Could I have just a moment, please?
Sure.
Yes, Tim. There was also reference in the defense case to Michael utilizing the defendant's phone and sending messages as a guise that it was her sending them. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oops, I need another marker.
This is State's Exhibit number 39, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you. Handing what's been marked for identification is States 39. Ask you if you could identify that.
You want me to identify it?
What?
Yes. This is a photograph of a text message from the cell phone of Matt McCormick. It's a text message stream between Matt McCormick and Michael Cochran.
What time is the text message from Michael Cochran?
There are two dates here. Do you want?
The second one.
On February 6th at 1:39 p.m., there is a text message that was sent from.
I'm going to object to this. This has nothing to do with my client's statement. This is hearsay.
We don't think so.
This is a statement between two third parties. One is dead, the other one is a third party.
Care to respond, Mr. Truman?
Yes, sir. This is a text from Michael Cochran's phone when all the evidence says Michael Cochran was totally unconscious and lying on a couch.
I'll allow it. Overruled. Go ahead.
This is a text message at 1:39 p.m. from Michael Cochran's phone to Matt McCormick's phone, in which he is telling Mr. McCormick that he would be available to see him in a few days, reference a firearms transaction.
From your investigation and from all the evidence to date, is there any possible way that Michael Cochran could have sent that text?
No, not at 1:39 p.m.
Why not?
We have a timestamped photograph taken by Natalie Cochran at approximately 12:30 of Michael Cochran laying on the floor at their residence, and then soon after we have witness testimony of individuals at their house with him in his unresponsive state during that time frame.
Your Honor, at this point, the state moves into evidence. I can't remember the numbers. Is it 37, 8, and 9?
37, 38, and 39.
Please.
And I'll preserve the defense objections previously made. Are there further objections that you wish to place on the record?
Now, Your Honor, to all of which I do object.
All right. I'm going to admit States Exhibits 37, 38, and 39 over the defense objections.
Your Honor, the state has no further questions.
All right. Cross-examination, Mr. Victor.